says that we are live. Wait for a couple of folks to join in. Perfect. Awesome. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to Momentum Officers. My name is Yash and I'm joined by my co-founders Harsh, Jai and Kaushik to discuss topic of the week, creating scalable design systems for SaaS products. Our goal is to provide you with actionable insights and practical strategies that you can apply to your own products. Throughout the session, we encourage you to ask questions, engage with us, and share your thoughts by commenting. This is a fantastic opportunity to learn from each other and gain new insights that can help drive your SaaS initiatives forward. So let's get started. Jai, Harsh, Kaushik, how are you feeling? How are you doing today?
Yes.
Having some pre-Diwali celebrations at office, and obviously finishing up the task before we hit on the.
Going on a break, like
Yeah.
feeling festive today, and that's why you might like people who are watching this, they might find us in unusual clothes, but these are sort of Indian traditional clothes that we're wearing today. We had a pre-Diwali party and we had a desk decoration competition that happened in the company today as well. Unfortunately, no one from our part of the team won, but that's okay. That's fine. But we have Kaushik here with us, and we want to talk about creating scalable design systems for SaaS products. So let's start with understanding the basics, right? What is scalable? What is a design system? Just let's forget the scalability piece for a bit. But what is a design system?
So, huh. With respect to understanding what is a design system, so a design system is basically the skeleton as well as the muscle for what your product is going to be.
Okay.
All the components that is going to create screens, create flows for your product is basically the design system. So it's the base structure from which your entire product is going to be built. It could be buttons, it could be field inputs, it could be combination of them. So we would be discussing all that further. But so it is basically creating this entire from the atomic level of your product's component to the entire pages is your entire design system basically.
So great. What is an atomic unit of a product?
Okay, so I'll come to that. So when you take your product, the design systems you can basically divide them into. It's more of a chemistry language. The way we categorize it. Atoms, we have molecules, we have organisms, we have templates, then we have pages. So your atoms are basically your button, your field input, even a label item is your all those individual items are all atoms. Now, when you come to molecules, when the field input and the button come together to create
Mhm.
a component, that is your
That's a
molecule,
molecule.
right? So basically, you put in your because logically that combination makes sense, right? So you put something in your field input and then press enter in your button. So it says that there is a logical application to that. Then when it comes to organisms, a common let's say there is a navbar, top navbar, which has the combination that I just explained as a molecule, and also has other button links as links to the page, and probably a icon, which sort of acts like a home page redirection icon, and that makes an entire navbar that would make your organism basically. So, which is a combination of all the molecules, exactly like in the language of chemistry. When it comes to templates, we are talking about the entire layout, where the combination, a series of combination of organisms that we just mentioned, is basically would create the layout, and series of layouts which will have a front flow, back flow, or child flows within them would create pages. So all these things. So this is the structural so when I said that it's going to be the bone and muscle, so this is the arrangement in which your entire design system
Yeah.
comes up, basically.
Interesting. Interesting.
Okay, so so there are two parts, right? UI and the UX, right? So when we are creating the design system for any product, right? So what are the things that we should included in this system design for UX and UI standpoint?
Uh, so uh, again, this is very specific to the product. I'll go. So for example, at the atom stage and molecule stage, you would probably have for 80% of the components for all the products very similar. You would still have a button. You would still have a field input. You would still have a lot of common elements. You would still have a toast message, alert messages. You would still have accordions. You would still have I can go on. So we have a list of items. With respect to the UX part comes in where it starts from the stage of layouts and the templates and the pages that I was talking. So when first is your layout design is where the UX part comes in, which would have a combination of your organisms and molecules that we just explained. So when your entire layout is there, the layout should be designed in such a way that there's only so much room in the layout, so you can't show everything at the same time. So you need to prioritize a few information over the other. So how you're going to prioritize, how you're going to use. Probably I could hide a few information, I could conceal few, I could I could use it, I could hide it inside a hover state, or I could hide it inside an open state or something like that. Now that's where the UX also comes in, of where it turns into pages, right? So it's at the layout side as well as the pages side is where it becomes more of a core UX. But this is a very interesting conundrum that is there. UI UX is that it's not two different things. It's sort of two sides of the same coin, which makes the coin. So, for example, a not well-sized button which is bad UI is also bad UX. So if you have sized a button that is at 30 pixel or lesser than 30 pixel, where the for a mobile, let's say, which is again an atom, right? So but in mobile, let's say that particular item is 30 pixel, it is not tappable size. So the optimum tappable size is 40 to 44 pixel, and 48 pixel when it comes to Android, 44 pixel when it comes to iOS. So there are certain guidelines. So if you're not designing accordingly, it's bad UI as well as bad. So it's a combination of both. You need to. That's the little thing people usually confuse it, thinking that they are two different streams. They are actually not.
Not
They are two sides of the same coin, like I said.
But is like the design system, is that UI or UX, or since you are saying it's the same, so then it's the same?
So the creation of it is UI purely, because in Figma you are actually adhering to the product's brand values and then creating the whole thing with respect to colors, with respect to the font choices. Even these again fall under the atom stage, right? So me choosing what font, what color still falls under the atom stage that I just explained. Sorry. So basically, it is a complete UI system. But how I'm going to take it and use it is a complete UX part, it turns into. So while I'm using it, my placement, my position, my sizing that I'm using it in is the UX part I'm talking about.
Right. So, Kaushik, it is given that design system is mandatory for designing any product for sure, and obviously you understand the brand guidelines and a lot of other aspects and research you'll put into it. But let's say someone is looking for building an MVP or like a fairly little larger version, another version after an MVP. In that case, what is the need for them to have their design system scalable? So what's the need of scalability in design system at early level?
Yeah, that's a
And
good
before you answer that, Kaushik, we have a chat message as well endorsing the topic that we are having the conversation about from CX Connect podcast, saying this is a great topic. Thank you, CX Connect. But Kaushik, please go ahead.
Yeah. At the MVP stage, it's important because for two things. One is to maintain consistency across all screens. You definitely need a design system. Second thing is that it helps you build and design very fast from a designer's perspective. Otherwise, if you, I'll give you the other scenario. If you don't have a design system, what happens? So basically, when you don't have a design system, every single time I create a screen, I have to manually recreate my components again and again. So understanding this is why Figma even created the few elements, few features within Figma like components, design tokens, assets, libraries. All these things were created to help designers and to encourage designers to design more, to move more into the direction of creating design systems, because that would create utmost consistency. This is one. And second thing is that it would make your life so much easier after the MVP is launched, because we all know how much founders love to create features within their build features upon their products.
Yeah.
So for you to keep doing that and to even take a decision upon if this feature is necessary, you have to design it first and test it with your own group or with the potential audience. Now, for this element to happen, if the design system is already in place before the while you created the MVP stage itself, it's very easy to scale a create a new feature using the same thing. So I could it just makes life so much easier for everyone within the team to make shift and to get the product out as quickly as possible, which is a crucial aspect of running the product company, right? So in that stage, with that in perspective, even at an MVP, if you had a design system at an MVP stage, it's great. If you didn't have a design system at an MVP stage, converting your existing design into a design system is something that you should focus upon and try to do.
And so, like, if I can add to this, right, I sort of believe that at a business level, building a design system has a lot more impact and effects apart from the design team itself, right? So, where while it makes the design more consistent, it makes the designers more productive. It also helps your front end engineering team to iterate and build components faster as well, right? So when a front end engineer knows that all tables are going to look like this, all rows are going to look like this, all cards are going to look like this, all the charts are going to look like this, they are also able to create components in their code, which also helps the efficiency as well. So this is like equivalent, I would say, like to sharpening an axe, right? To cut a tree, right? So while you're sharpening the axe, other people might already start cutting the tree, and you might feel that you are a little behind. But once you've sharpened it enough, you'd be able to cut trees significantly faster, more efficiently, more productively, and so on and so forth. Is what I wanted to very quickly add. So, like, do you have, Kaushik, something to show in terms of how for a founder who's not necessarily an engineering for a founder who's not necessarily a designer or an engineer from a business side of things, and they have an MVP that's out, they've not created or they've not seen a design system, what could it look like?
Yeah. So I'll just I'll try to show one of our own projects. I just had it with me. I mean, it's always there in one of the tabs. So, okay. So, this is a product that we have with us, which is a equivalent to, I think, we can think of it as like an equivalent to the Canva. It has editor as a component dashboard and n number of modals happening and all those things. So when the project arrives, what we try to do is we try to build a core element set and base component set, where we decide what all. So core elements predominantly will stay the same for most of the products. So for example, aspects like what color palette are we going to go for? But in this, we very clearly define what are the error colors, what are the danger colors, what are the success colors, and everything. And we also define if there is text, what all color variations are we going to have for even for text elements? Because it's not going to be pure black; it's going to be some shade of or tint of black. So what it is going to be, we define all those individual items too, and then we convert them into design tokens within Figma, such that whenever a designer is using it would be helpful. Now these are similarly we do it for here you could see it. We do it for typography. We do it for icons. We whatever the icon library that you're choosing, we get all the entire icon library into the platform. Grid system. What amount of shadows are we going to go for, and all those things. And then we get into the we have defined the atoms. The stage of this is before atoms also. So deciding upon what brand we are going to go with for this particular product. And then we work on since now we have worked on quite a number of projects. We work on atoms, molecules, and organisms at the same time. So, for example, individual items like banners, breadcrumbs, buttons, and all those things, we individually create them and we keep it. So, for example, and we also define state. One more very important thing is defining states, because we are designing not documents, right? We are designing screens. So, screens have states. That's where the user interacts, right? So, all these components from the atom level to the entire layout level, all of them have states. Even for an atom level like buttons, all the states, all the primary, secondary, tertiary components, everything are defined. And then if you go a little bit higher, usually what we do, the way we try to do it is, if there is a particular atom element that we have designed, we put a example showcasing how this particular element is going to come and where it is going to come. So if this is an atom and field input is an atom and email address is an atom, email address and field input and button together, this combination is basically a molecule. And then all of them coming together in one single layout, this particular model would make it an organism, because you have a combination of buttons, you have a combination of label, icon, and all those things. And then they all coming together in a screen would make it a layout, which makes you the create an account screen. And then when I click upon this, if it takes to the next screen, it makes the pages. So we usually arrange it like this, and then so you can see all the components that would be possible. Now there is a thing that one needs to keep in mind is that this is where wireframing would aid heavily with respect to designing a design system. If you have wireframe in a clarity level with the flows with respect to the product in such a way that, for example, let's say in wireframing level, you have identified that there is a file upload element in the product. Then, uh, then when you come to design system, you would focus on designing how file upload aspects work within the product. So, is it going to have a loading bar? So is there a state where, let's say, when someone is loading, what do I show? Do I show uploading? Do I show completed? So if I'm showing uploading, am I going to have an icon for that? So all these decisions would come, one after the other while you're trying to define the individual design system. And then you can, very quickly get into the product phase where if you look at this particular product, when we designed it, we just went really fast with it. Like with respect to creating screens. Now, this helped our design team to focus more on the flows and how could we make it better, rather than worrying more about is this color fine, or is this particular state's active state okay, or should it be less brighter, more brighter? All these decisions, none of our designers are thinking that when they are in creating a product design stage. They are more focused on how could I design this layout, how could I design the flows. That is what they are thinking. So that is something that we had as a learning from our product design stages itself. Even like during the course, these are some learnings we had. Is that especially while you're designing the screens, the designer and the team, as well as basically the entire team, should focus on the flows rather than thinking, is this color fine? Is this going with the brand? Or is this active state? Should I make it a little 40% less darker, 50, or is the text in the right dark shade? So these things are not something that the team should be worried while they're making the screens. So even though it seems like something that is very minute, but it saves so much time, and eventually it saves development time, and there's also one more very important thing is that from developer handoff perspective, it makes life for developers so much better. So having a design system. I mean, so they don't have to go back to the design team, the to and fro, is completely eliminated if you build a very good design system. So we have seen it again and again in all the products that we have done. It happened every single time. So yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing, this also help the QA team, right? If you have the guidelines, right? Though the QA team also makes our test cases for that, so that the
Yeah.
testing will also be fast, and the development will be also the great fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I just have think is ki, just consider we are building an MV product, right? And we created some design system for that, right? Now, as we grow, right, it can be possible. Okay, there are the more components, more style guidelines are adding into our design systems, right? And also possible case some of the components that we already have built, right? It can be changed, right? Such
Yeah.
like the we have put some style for button, right? And after some time we have changed the style, right? So how we can keep this versioning thing, that like in future, like if you want to roll back the our changes, right? So how we maintain the changes in our design system components?
So one thing is that if you, it's more additive process rather than a replaceable process.
Okay.
Uh, if when you have a design system, if I, to explain it in much more detail, uh, at a very rare case you would change your color of your product. It's a big decision. At a very rare case, you would change the. You might change, for example, you might take a decision upon what should be the roundedness of my button, which is also a very rare case. But smaller decisions like that.
It's
When
typically like a rebranding exercise or something like
yeah,
that.
Hmm.
that means you're changing the entire design system itself. But there will be cases. For example, I'll give you a very interesting example. uh, which we have encountered also. So there could be a field input which you wouldn't have created with a drop down. So it's just a field input, but you didn't create the design system in such a way that there is a drop down attached. Now let's say you have launched it only in one particular country. Let's say now you are launching it in multiple countries or a different geography location. Now, in your sign up journey, you need to give the option for them to choose mobile numbers, right? Now, you could either have a field input and then a separate drop down, or I could combine both and create a field input in such a way that the field input has a drop down inside the field input itself. You might have seen that in many times, right?
Yeah, right.
So this I might not have created it, right? So that's why I said it's an it should be an additive process. It shouldn't be a process where you change from the base. So now what all I have to do is I have to take my existing field input, create a component, create a variant of it in such a way that it has an option for mobile number drop down also. Similarly, in future there might be multiple use cases. For example, I could have a situation where it should have not a drop down but just a fixed state within my field input saying HTTPS just before as a prefix, right? So these kind of situations will happen, and you have to create it in an additive way. So every time you have to create a variant within your Figma, within your component and keep improving. So that is the specific edge case. Actually, that's a good question because many people, what they do is they go back and they change the whole thing. You shouldn't do it because it makes everyone's life. It might be very like designers love spending time in Figma. Okay, to give you an example, they like to be in the Figma file for a long time, but that's why they love to keep re overwriting on top of the design file again and again. But it will just make everyone's life because someone has to go there and like develop the whole thing again.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. So let's make it just an additive process.
So this brings me to another question. It is obvious that one should not change every whole design system completely, but then there are certain updations which needs to be done, as you mentioned in recent example, right? So, are there any like processes or metrics there to evaluate and iterate on the existing design system? And if yes, then upon what frequency does one update the design system?
I think it's at what scale of your company do you want to take that decision? Uh,
Mhm.
I very genuinely think that I mean I've seen products which have created design systems and until they got acquired by like for example I can give you one example. Superlist is one product. Superlist is a task management tool. So they created the product. It's the same design system that they had when they launched as an MVP, and even after the launch. Even after Microsoft's acquisition, they still maintain the same design system. The company got acquired by Microsoft, and
Wunderlist.
yeah, Wunderlist. They changed it to Wunderlist, and still they maintain the same design system. But there are companies which went to an extent to change the whole design system, and they went to an enterprise level platform. So, for example, I think Atlassian is a very good example of creating. They spent great amount of money and time into creating a very detailed design system. Even Uber, for that matter, they had a very different UI, and then they. It's also if I think one interesting metric or point is that if you are finding that your user is having a difficulty in using the application or the product at a very base level, where they're having legibility problems, accessibility issues with your product, then is definitely a time where you need to update your design system. If there are accessibility issues, then it's a big problem because we have seen because let's say if I'm a app like Uber or Ola, which I'm probably using the application 2 to 3 times a day, and if the brightness when my screen we can't expect all the devices to be at equal standards, right? So different devices are at different quality standards. So even at a very bad screen, if your application colors are not visible, or if your button is not even seen, then it's a big problem. So those are the things where so when it's also a question that when does a company reach to a level where they have this data, they do this user research and they have this data. So yeah.
And so just by chance, if you are that company and if you have a problem, please reach out to us at Momentum. We can create a design system that will for sure be accessible. We've done this a lot of times before, and we'll make sure that your design system is as optimized as possible, as efficient as possible, as accessible as possible, and the experience of using the web or the mobile app that you're working on is that your users have or your customers or consumers have is as great as possible. And so we have a question from the chat here. Someone's asking what are some great places to kickstart a design system. Like, so are there design systems that are already created and then exist out there in the world that we could borrow from, or we could learn from, or we could improve upon them or build more things on them? So like if we don't want to start building a design system because it seems like a very difficult thing to do, like to design each and every component or atoms as you put it. It might be a big task, but we are founders of a startup. We want to move things along very quickly, and the question is not whether we can make an application that is the best looking applications or not. The question is much more profound: whether what we are about to build is that of value to anyone or not. So that's what we want to solve for. So if you want to start a design system today, are there any resources that are available that we can look through? I think that's the question.
Yeah. So great question. So I think to begin with, we we have both Google and Apple who have made their entire design system open source. So you can check out their guidelines. Google has human interface guidelines. Sorry, Apple has human interface guidelines. Google has Google's material design. It's currently Google's material design 3, so you can check that out. So they both have their design systems out. So why I'm suggesting these both is because they are ultimately you're probably if it's an app that you're designing, you're probably going to launch it in App Store or in Google Store. And if you don't follow these guidelines, they will not approve your app to be placed in their marketplaces. If it's a platform, then again it's probably going to be it's a SaaS. You're probably going to open it in Google. or in any of those. So still it has to follow and maintain those standards. Um, and when it comes to apart from this, there are a lot of other design systems. So we have companies who have open source their design system. We have Cred who has open source their design system. We have Atlassian. We have Uber. We have Shopify. We have almost all the large scale companies have open source their design systems because they want people to build, people to build products upon their design systems and see how it works out. We have Microsoft, IBM also who have open sourced it. Even they have Microsoft has went one step above and they have even created individual product wise. But you can see Teams design system. You can see it's all out there. You can search it and you can find it directly. It's also available in Figma's marketplace, Figma's the community place. And apart from this, there are also design systems that you can buy for. You can pay and get them. There is Untitled that is out there in the market, which is pretty famous. You can pay for it and you can get it. Get it. There are also a few of them which are much more towards the costlier side. Usually, the paid ones are much more towards the costlier side. The reason being because they are very expensive and they're very often updated. So that gives you an advantage of the fact that you don't have to keep check on it. But one thing that you should keep in mind is that no design system will be 100% fit for your product. And then it would probably do a job from 50 to 70%. 70% means it's great. I think at an MVP level, probably it will do 70% of the job. But that's where exactly that's why we named it scalable design systems for your SaaS products, because you could take any design system and you could build an initial level of a product, because it's going to have all atoms and even molecules that we just discussed. It's going to have all buttons, field inputs, accordions, source messages, errors, everything. It is also going to have probably an entire navbar constructed for you and showcase. We also, we also have front-end libraries who have made their design systems and made it live. We have Tailwind who has done it. We have different front-end libraries and design systems which has done it. So all these people, even those are also from a developer's perspective, the front-end library itself is giving the design system, which makes it much more easier, right? So that the point here is that no design system is going to do the full job for you. You have to at some point get the designer to scale it and create.
Come to Momentum, right? At some point they'll have to come to Momentum to finish their design system. But that's great, right? So you can get started. I mean, 50-70%. It's not the complete job done, but it's good enough to get started and to launch an MVP. Get your first few, like the first 100 customers who love what you're building, who love what you're doing, and that's good enough to get there. And so for all the people who are wherever you are watching this or listening to this, in the comments, we will be adding the links to all the resources that Kaushik mentioned, including Tailwind and Untitled and Google's Material UI and so on and so forth. So you'll be able to find all of those things over there as well. But with that, we have come to the end of the conversation. End of the conversation for today. Hope this was a meaningful conversation for you, and we were able to. We may not have answered all of your questions, but maybe we've answered some of your open questions as far as creating scalable design systems for your SaaS. Hope to see you in our next stream. Stay tuned to Momentum91 and subscribe if you have not. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the account wherever you are watching this. Follow us. And the advantage, as I shared previously, of subscribing is that you will not have to subscribe in the future. So why put until tomorrow what you can accomplish today, and why put something off until today if you can accomplish right away, right? So it's a harmless click of a button. And I had a conversation with both YouTube as well as LinkedIn that your subscription and your followership will be given to you for free. So there are no charges for doing this. But thanks everyone once again wherever you joined us, and hope to see you again next week. Until then, happy Diwali to all of you.